The Genius of Islam: How Muslims Made the Modern World, by Bryn Bernard. A New Beginning. Islam is one of the world's great religions, one of the history's most important civilizations, and one of the foundational cultures of the West. During Islam's first 500 years, from the 7th through the 12th centuries, this new religion created one of the most innovative and influential civilizations on earth, an essential bridge between antiquity and modernity. For many more centuries, the Islamic world remained a center of learning, wealth, luxury, and sophistication, envied and imitated by its neighbors. By the 16th century, when parts of the Islamic world had begun to be eclipsed by the Western colonial nations in military, economic, and social power, Islam had left its mark on everything. The books we read, the music we play, the words we speak, the numbers we count, the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the science we depend on, all were shaped, at least in part, by Islam. Islam was founded by Muhammad ibn Abdallah, an Arabian merchant who lived in the city of Mecca, located in modern Saudi Arabia. Today, Mecca is the holiest city in the Muslim world. Then it was a small trading center at the edge of two great warring empires, Byzantium and Persia. Around AD 610, when he was 40 years old, the Prophet Muhammad began to receive a series of overpowering revelations about the oneness of God and commandments to reform society, to make it more just, more charitable, more fair. Muslims believe these revelations came to Muhammad via the angel Gabriel. In 613, the Prophet Muhammad began preaching these ideas outside the Kaaba, the building in the center of Mecca that housed the city's pagan idols. By 630, after many setbacks, battles, and near disasters, the Prophet and his followers had not only conquered Mecca and destroyed the idols in the Kaaba, but also united the entire Arabian Peninsula under Islam. Within a century, Muslim armies had expanded the empire from Spain to China. In the centuries that followed, this empire would disintegrate into many competing factions, but Islam's influence would continue to strengthen and spread to India, Southeast Asia, and beyond. The Prophet Muhammad died in 632. After his death, the revelations were assembled into a book, the Quran, whose contents became as divine to Muslims as the Torah is to Jews and the Bible to Christians. A century or so later, the hundreds of thousands of sayings of the Prophet, hadith, and the stories from his life were winnowed down and compiled, in much the same way that the apostles gathered the parables of Jesus, into the Sunnah. The Quran and Sunnah became the bedrock of Islam. From this beginning, Islam developed many strains of belief. Today, around 90% of all Muslims are Sunnis. They follow the Quran and Sunnah and believe Muhammad is God's last prophet. Around 10% of Muslims are Shiites. They have the same beliefs as the Sunni, but in addition to the Prophet Muhammad, they venerate a series of prophetic leaders who lived after him. Some Muslims are Sufis. Sufism is a mystical tradition, stressing love between God and human beings, that is associated with both Sunni and Shia Islam. The famous whirling dervishes are one of the many different Sufi orders. After the death of the Prophet Muhammad, the Islamic community was led by a series of caliphs, successors. The first four, rightly guided caliphs, were elected. Thereafter, the caliphate was made hereditary, with different dynasties competing for the title on the basis of their connections to the Prophet, wealth, power, and military success. Islam's first dynastic caliphs were the Umayyads, based in Damascus. The Abbasids overthrew them in 750 and eventually moved the capital to Baghdad. A single Umayyad survivor fled to Spain and founded the Western Umayyad dynasty. For the next 3 centuries, competition between the Abbasids and the Western Umayyads fueled much Muslim innovation. In 1517, the caliphate was transferred to the Turkish Ottomans. In 1924, the Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, the founder of modern Turkey, abolished the caliphate. The Quran esteems learning, saying, God will raise up in rank those of you who have been given knowledge. 2 adages attributed to Prophet Muhammad underscore this idea. Seek knowledge, even if it be in China, and The quest for learning is a duty for every Muslim. Many scholars follow this advice to investigate and build on foreign knowledge. The centuries of learning of non-Muslim cultures, the common heritage of all humanity. It was here that Islam would make some of its greatest contributions to the improvement of the human condition. In the hands of the open-minded and curious, Islam became a vehicle for unprecedented intellectual discovery. Although Islam began as an Arab religion, Islamic civilization evolved into a heterogeneous society that drew its strength and vitality from the interaction of many cultures, ethnicities, and faiths. Although for the most part Arabs ruled and led, they recognized and rewarded talented minorities. Jews became generals and prime ministers. Christians led centers of learning and embassies. Persians who converted to Islam became esteemed scholars. Early Muslims knew they had a lot of catching up to do to equal or surpass the great civilizations that preceded and surrounded them. To meet the practical needs of a growing intercontinental empire, Muslims borrowed and mixed what they needed from their many subjects and neighbors. Adoption and adaptation became hallmarks of Islamic civilization. Scholars working in the Muslim world compiled, decoded, and improved upon the knowledge of ancient Babylon, Greece, Rome, Persia, India, and Egypt. Math was upgraded to calculate charity, inheritance, and taxes. Astronomy was retooled to accurately establish the direction and precise times of prayer and fasting, and used to create maps and navigational tools for the pilgrimage to Mecca. Architecture evolved to build mosques, palaces, and homes. Irrigation and horticulture were developed to keep a growing population fed. Medicine and pharmacology were expanded to keep people healthy. Efficient communication methods were invented to keep them informed. The result wasn't perfect. Like Greece and Rome before it, medieval Islam practiced slavery and evolved striking social inequalities between men and women. But at its best, this new society was unlike anything the world had seen before. Multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious, optimistic, open, curious, tolerant, literate, cosmopolitan, united by a single language, brimming with cutting-edge science and technology, assured that the light of civilization burned brightest within its borders. When this light touched the dry kindling of medieval Europe, it ignited the Renaissance, the starting point for the world we know today.